Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. This is a pleasure morning to speak about something that I think today is very, very important for the workers nowadays, as they have to know about their rights, especially as an employee. And this is something that is very, very important to be discussed within Malaysian, because we doesn't know much about this scheme of insurance precisely. And the best part is we are going to discuss with two of the best scholars in MSU, and without further ado, this studio will invite Mr. Izwan Daniel and also Mr. Jainesh for this particular talk.
Hi, Assalamualaikum.
Hi Izwan, Jainesh, how about you? How are you? How are you doing?
Hi bro. I'm good.
Alright, Alhamdulillah. Okay, thank you God. Alright. So particularly about implementation, before we start further precisely to speak about what is exactly and what is the components, what is, and we are going to do a bit of a comparison with another country. I just going to give some sort of introduction to all of you about what is exactly employment insurance system. All right, without further ado, right, that's okay, on. All right. Okay, you guys can see it now, right?
Yes, can.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Sorry for the inconvenience. All right. So basically, when we talk about employment insurance system, it is governed under Employment Insurance System Act 2017. We have specific act for that, so that we can see that how our government, how our parliament really intends to produce something that is very, very serious when it comes to the welfare of the worker, when it comes to the protection of the worker itself. And speaking about Tokso and Pekeso, we often heard about our parents say that their salary must go 0.4%, depends on their salary, but usually it's 0.4% from employer and 0.4% from employee has to go into Sokso or Pekeso. They call it Sokso Pekeso, and we wonder what is Sokso Pekeso. Actually, Sokso Pekeso is the body that administered the EIS, which is the Employment Insurance System. And EPF, when it comes to Malaysian, we know a lot about EPF because previously the government allow for the people of Malaysian to take their money out from the EPF, around 10,000 something. So that's why they know a lot about EPF. But how about employment insurance system? Okay, basically when it comes to EIS and EPF, it has a different. It is totally different, to be honest. It is the same when it comes to your salary, when it comes to the percentage that they took from your salary. But when it comes to the implementation of EIS and also EPF, it is totally different. The keywords of EIS is that it is a job loss coverage scheme. That is EIS. And for EPF, it is an employees provident fund. All right. So without further ado, this is very interesting. Okay, we have the components of EIS. This is very, very important for our knowledge. So I think this is my time to invite our representative from MSU, Mr. Izwan, to speak about the component of EIS in Malaysia.
Okay, thank you very much to the host, Izra Imran. Yes, Assalamualaikum and very good morning. So I'll begin to present about the EIS in Malaysia. So Malaysian government passed the Employment Insurance System Bill as early in the October 2017 as a new protection measure for local workers. and it comes into its legal effect starting from 1st January 2018, which are bound by both employers and also employees to make contributions. We already acknowledge that EIS in Malaysia is managed by Social Security Organization, which is SOCSO, as mentioned earlier in the introduction by Isra. SOCSO is a statutory body which is responsible to provide social security protection to employees and their dependents through the protection schemes that they introduce. So EIS covers other types of benefits such as protection for workers at the workplace, as well as medical and rehabilitation of employees. However, equally important to note that there are two major components provided under EIS. Alongside giving financial assistance, as we all acknowledge, EIS also contributes crucial components in giving employment service programs. EIS focus on providing unemployment assistance by giving employees training program and job seeking assistance, which intended to help the insured persons return to work as soon as possible as after they were retrenched. Throughout the years of achieving success for EIS in Malaysia, SOCSO have introduced 6 schemes of protection, namely Occupational Disaster Scheme, the Disability Scheme, Foreign Workers Disaster Scheme, Domestic Workers, Self-Employment Scheme, and last but not least, the Employment Insurance System. So all of these schemes provided by SOCSO is to serve as protection for the insured person by giving financial support as well as employment service program. So giving an example of a scheme that helps employees in the financial assistance, the Occupational Disaster Scheme provides allowance to qualified employees who suffers permanent injury for 500 per month, and they may receive free medical treatment at SOCSO panel clinics or government clinics or hospitals. Another schemes which help assisting employees in preparation returning to work, the Disability Scheme allocate facilities in the form of physical rehabilitation by providing physiotherapy sessions, occupational therapy, orthopedic supplies such as wheelchairs, as well as vocational rehabilitation such as training in the electrical field, sewing, and many more. The employment insurance system, however, is an insurance for employees who were retrenched and actively seeking for a job, providing immediate financial assistance as income replacement and employment service through re-employment placement program. And that is all EIS for EIS in Malaysia. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Izwan. That's basically a precise explanation about what is actually EIS and its component in Malaysia. And now we understand EIS, what is EIS, what basically EIS, and also we understand precisely about its component, what is EIS is all about. I mean, what's the objective of EIS basically.
Yes.
Okay, now we understand in Malaysia, EIS when it comes to Malaysia, but how about when it comes to another country where we can compare this system to see whether our system is good or whether for the research purposes, right? And I think this is where I will invite the experts when it comes to the comparison. I mean, not the comparison, but the research done of EIS in another country. So I've been, first of all, what's the country of your choice, Mr. Jainesh, for this research?
Okay, so for today, for this research that we will, the country that we will talk about is it's Mongolia.
All right. Okay, I can see that. Okay, before that, I've seen your slide about it stated that the government passed the social insurance law in 1984. So it is about the same as our law, isn't it? When it comes to EIS in Malaysia, which is administered by SOCSO, isn't it? All right. So
yeah,
okay,
it's quite the same.
It's quite the same. All right. Okay, I would like to hear more from you. So, basically, the mic is yours. Please, Jenas.
Okay. So about Mongolia, first we'll talk about the the background of it a bit. So about Mongolia. Okay. So yeah, first we'll talk about the background a bit. The country is, as we all know, it's a small populated country. It's like only like 8 million people around, and yeah, ever since Mongolia is rapidly transit from the rented economy in the Soviet style to the market economy after the 1990. So in response, the government has passed the social insurance law, as you said, in 1984, which includes the provision for unemployment insurance. Mongolia government has recognized that critical importance of the strengthening social policies and establishing at the needs of social protect law, which is called the SPF, to close the development gaps. Mongolia has passed the law on payment and unemployment benefit from the Social Insurance Fund in December 1995 and began issuing unemployment benefit in January 1997. And the government passed the law of Mongolia employment promotion in 2001, which including extending the UI coverage as one of the 5 employment promotion activities. Since 2001, the Asian Development Bank has supported a variety of the initiatives aimed at reducing the poverty and improving social protection for the vulnerable groups, including the revision of Mongolia social insurance law.
Oh, okay. So you are saying that when it comes to Mongolia, they precisely speaking about their unemployment insurance system is for the groups that didn't have the capability to work, isn't it? I mean, they don't work and basically they are so they focus on that group.
To reducing the poverty especially.
Okay, right. I see. Okay, so please continue.
Okay, so for the unemployment insurance, okay, so for the unemployment insurance, so here we'll see in Mongolia, the law on payment of unemployment insurance from Social Insurance Fund covers the implementation detail of the UI scheme. Registration to the SI found is required for all contract workers, both nation and non-nation. So regarding of the size of the enterprise as well as for the public servant. So here another point that we need to see is employer and employee contributes are reduced by 10% from the workers which a stabilized employment contract. Institutionally structure, the Minister of Social Welfare and Labour established the policies and produced from the UI scheme. So the contribution of the rate is 1% of all the wages, split equally between workers and employees, so that the employer and employee contribute are reduced by 10% per year. if a worker does not use the UI fund for 5 years in a row, then the maximum reduction shall not be greater than 50% for annually contribution. So other than that, we can see which is the point. If a worker voluntarily terminates his or her employment contract of relief by her duties by employee due to serious or repeat violation of a labor code, 36 days of benefit will be deducted from the employee benefit as well. So the government sponsors employment promotion, EP. It's called EP, and activities are open to all of it, which is like two types. First is the EP service, such as job, vocational training, orientally, or counseling, and so on. So the second one is called EP measures, such as self-employment assistance and assistance to launch business, partnership, cooperative, as well as the public work programs. So a few in the Mongolia, the employment promotion law and Mongolian social insurance law do not contain any provision that specifically address gender issues. So there's no specific provision in UI policy and produce to the facilities, to the benefits and services for the people with disabilities. So last but not least, the strength of the Mongolian scheme is first is recurring surplus indicate that the UI scheme could be made more generous or eligible criteria less restrictive, and the second one will be the application process is quite straightforward with the minimum paperwork, which they only need like 3 documents. So the weakness will be the qualifying condition are very restrictive. So that's all for me.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Jainesh. So basically, I understand now the system in Mongolia. And on the next day, we will invite another experts from MSU to speak about to make such comparison of Mongolian side of employment insurance system and also the Malaysian side of employment insurance system. I can say that the purpose is actually the same. It is to help the worker, but the implementation is quite different. So we will see what our representative from MSU next day will speak about. And to be honest, I understand quite clear about employment insurance system in Malaysia and in Mongolia for today. So I would like to appreciate to express my greatest appreciation to Mr. Izwan and also Mr. Jainesh for today's session. And that's all from us today. Okay, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me today.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Alright, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good evening to my fellow members, fellow classmates. And today, as I've mentioned before this, as I promised that we have discussed a lot about this EIS components in Malaysia, and also one of our interviewees said that they choose Mongolia as the country for these research purposes. So today we are going to invite our two of the best scholars in MSU to discuss and further precisely explain about this EIS component in Mongolia. So without further ado, we have here Mr. Ben. Welcome, Mr. Ben. And also Mr. Arif Izzuddin. Welcome, Mr. Arif. Okay, it's a pleasure to meet all of you today. And without further ado, I think we have speaking about the comparison between the Malaysian and Mongolian AIS component. So I think we shall start with similarity first before anything. Okay, so let me share it for you guys. Okay. Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Okay. Hi, my name is Arif Izzuddin bin Muhammad Zulkifli, and I'm going to talk about the similarities of the unemployment insurance of Malaysia and Mongolia. So basically, it's actually it's actually the same thing, but the act itself is by using different name, because in Mongolia we call it as social insurance policy, but in Malaysia we call it as employment insurance system act. Okay, so the first thing is the who is applicable to take this unemployment insurance. It is for the insured person that pay contribution for the both country, Mongolia and Malaysia, due to dismissal. So in Mongolia, it is as simple as that. If you pay your insurance, if you pay your contribution to the social organization for the unemployment insurance, then you can apply for this unemployment benefits if you were to be dismissed by your company. But in Malaysia, it's a little bit detailed because you need to be between 18 and 60 years old, and it does not extend to civil servant, workers in local authority and statutory bodies. For Mongolia, you can apply for the unemployment insurance if you are still in a self-employed company. You just need to pay it by yourself. And for Malaysian, there's exemption for if the employee were to resign due to sexual harassment, for example, or resign after being ordered to perform dangerous duty that are not within the job scope. It is you can apply for the unemployment insurance if you're still in that certain area. Okay, next. Okay, the determination on question of loss and employment, because this part is the most crucial part in in deciding whether the employee applicable or not for the unemployment benefit if they were to be dismissed. So the similarities for both countries is the authorities will make decision whether they are qualified for the compensation. As in Mongolia, it will be decided by the employment department or social insurance organization. And Malaysia, the director or any officer of the organization authorized by the director general. So it's basically the same, but the name of the authorities is a very bit a different thing. Okay, next slide is both have a ceiling for the amount of unemployment benefits. So this unemployment benefits is not unlimited. They have a ceiling for them. So for Mongolia, it is 10 times the monthly minimum wage. So you can 10 times the monthly minimum wage, which is 192 Mongolian dollar. So you get 1,920,000 Mongolian dollar. So this is the maximum for a year to be paid in the unemployment benefits. Meanwhile, in Malaysia, it is calculated based on the monthly benefits that gonna be compensated to the employee, which is 3,950 50. But both of these benefits, both of these ceilings are restricted by the percentage of the payment, which in Mongolia, the percentage of a payment is basically based on how long did the employee work for the company. But in Malaysia, it will be decreasing monthly. Like the first month, it's gonna be 80% of the assumed wage, uh, and the fourth month gonna be only 30% of the assumed wage. And last but not least, the duration for the unemployment benefits. This is also the similarities of Mongolia and Malaysia on the unemployment insurance, which they have the maximum period for the compensation to be paid to the unemployed employee. So the duration for Mongolia is based on the Article 24 of the Convention, number 102. It is approximately 15 weeks, which is 76 days in detail. So approximately 15 weeks within a 12-month period. So that's the maximum unemployment benefits for the unemployed insurance. Meanwhile, in Malaysia, it is up to 6 months, but the minimum compensation will be 3 months. So yeah, that's it from me. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much to Mr. Arif Izzuddin. You're very well explained there. So now we understand precisely about the similarities between their system of insurance with our country. So we are now about to understand further into the different between the system of EIS in Malaysia and also in Mongolia. So without further ado, we will call our expert, Mr. Ben. And now, please, the studio is yours. Studio. All right. Okay, hold on.
Alright.
Yep.
Okay, so Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon to everyone. So my name is Muhammad Nurizat Nizam, but you guys can call me Ben. Okay, so we already listened to Mr. Arif Izzuddin about the similarities between Malaysian and Mongolian. So now I'm about to explain about the differences between Malaysian and Mongolian employment insurance system. Okay, so for Malaysian, we're using the laws of Malaysia, which is Act 800, which is the Employment Insurance System Act 2017. While for Mongolian, they're using the Technical Corporation Mongolian, which is the social protection. Okay, so without wasting our time, for Malaysia, they stated in the section 30 law of Malaysia Act 800, which is the Employment Insurance System Act 2017, which is the first one is clause 1, which is the loss of employment. The loss of employment occurs if the contract of service is of an insured person is terminated or become void due to any reason, which is other than the following, which is the first one is the voluntary regulation by the insured person. The second one is the expiry of the contract of service of the insured person. The third one will be the termination of the contract of service by mutual consent, and then of mutual consent of the employer and the insured person without term and condition. And then the next one will be completion of the work in accordance with the terms of the contract of service. The next one is the retirement of the insured person, or the last one, that reason, which is the termination of contract of service of the insured person due to misconduct. And then the second clause of this act is stated for the purpose of paragraph clause 1A, voluntary resignation means an act by an insured person to terminate his contract of his service with and said that with an employer at any time during the period of the contract of service other than the following, which is first one is a resignation under voluntary separation. The second one is a resignation, tantamount to be a constructive dismissal of a resignation due to willful breach. The third one is a resignation due to any threat to insured person or family of the insured person, or sexual harassment towards the insured person. The fourth one is a resignation due to a command by an employer to perform work outside the scope of work which endangers the health and safety of the insured person. And then the last one will be a resignation due to the closure of the workplace, or the workplace is not operation because of natural disaster, or maybe somehow like a riot, and then civil commotion, demonstration, or other similar situation, or the we can say that, or the workplace becomes unsafe due to fire or any other circumstance. Okay, that one is for the Malaysian. So for Mongolia, the Mongolia using the unemployment benefit, which is part 4 of Convention number 102, which is stated that the wait, okay, we stated that the social insurance fund in Mongolia is responsible for granting unemployment benefit according to the law of unemployment benefit by the fund of social insurance and the law of social insurance. So in this one, there is 5 already stated in the act, which is the first one is contingency stated in Article 20 of Convention number 102. The second one is the coverage. The third one is level of unemployment benefit. The third one, qualifying period. The fourth one will be duration of the benefit, and the last one will be the waiting period. So I'm going to explain a little bit about these 5 things. Okay, so for the contingency, according to Article 20 of Convention numbers 102, provide that the contingency covered shall include suspension of earning due to inability to obtain suitable employment in the case of a person protected who is capable of and available for work under the law on unemployment benefit, and unemployment benefit is payable to an insured person who becomes unemployed following his or her dismissal. Okay, for the second one is the coverage, which is the coverage is under section 4 paragraph 2 in conjunction with section 3 paragraph 2 clause 3 of the law on social insurance. The following person are covered mandatorily in case of unemployment: Mongolian citizen, foreigner, stateless person, contract to work in all type of entities, organization, non-governmental and religious organization, and for individual public servant, Mongolian citizen working abroad under a labor contract. And then the third one is the level of the employment benefit, which is under the Article 22 of the Convention, stated that the amount of unemployment benefit must be calculated either in a conformity with the rules established in Article 65, 66, or 67 of Convention numbers 102. And then the next one is about the qualifying period, which is in the Article 23 of a Convention number 102, stated that it will provides that any qualifying period for benefit must be such as to preclude abuse. And then the next one is the duration of the benefit, also under the Article 24 of Convention number 102, which is in this one, it provides that the duration of the benefit may be limited to 1 to 13 weeks within a period of 12 months in cases where classes or employees are protected, such as Mongolian. In addition, Article 24, Clause 2 also stipulate that in cases where the duration of the benefit varies with the length of the contribution period, the average duration of benefit must be at least 13 weeks within a period of 12 months. And then the last one is the waiting period, which is in this one, in the Article 24 stated of and Article 24 Clause 3 of Convention number 102 also stated that they allows for a maximum waiting period of 7 days before benefits are payable. Okay, that's all from me.
Okay, thank you so much for both of our interview for today's session. So I have one question for you guys. Any of you guys can answer this. Okay, the question is basically regarding the main difference between the between Mongolia and Malaysia in terms of EIS. So can you guys explain one key to understand all of the difference and also the similarities between Malaysian and Mongolian system of employment insurance system?
So I'm gonna answer it on the similarities, and I believe Ben gonna answer it for the differences. To conclude, so the similarities, the biggest similarities of Mongolian and Malaysian unemployment insurance is they both have an organization. Like Malaysian have Perkeso, and Mongolian have this social insurance policy, that social insurance organization that the employee itself contribute monthly to them. Like in Malaysia, ours also the EIS deduct our salary automatically every month. So after some certain amount of contribution, like in Mongolia also, after 9 months to 12 months of the contribution, and after working, then you can get compensation of if you are unemployed by dismissal or any exemption on the Malaysian case. So different from company like South Korean, they need to buy the insurance for the unemployment insurance themselves, the employee. The government did not provide them the platform to automatically deduct their salary for the contribution. They need to buy the insurance package themselves if they got unemployed for dismissal. That's the biggest similarity of Mongolia and Malaysia if want to compare it among the world itself.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Arif. Okay, now we have the from similarities side, and now we are going to discover the different side. Okay, Mr. Ben.
Okay. I guess for the biggest key differences between the Malaysian EIS and Mongolian, which is the first one is for sure Malaysian is using the employment insurance system, while for the Mongolian they're using the Mongolian EIS, which means the social insurance or policy. And then I don't think that they already have that kind of like similarities, maybe like Perkeso and something, but then I guess the huge difference is already stated in the both act, which is for Mongolian they already state in their own act, which is just now they're having that kind of five indicator, which is the first one is just I said just now, which is the contingency coverage, level of employment benefit, qualifying period, duration of the benefits, and waiting period. While for Malaysia, we more focusing on the more on the service of an insured person, whether it's terminated or become void due to any reason. And then also Malaysian is more focusing on the voluntary resignation, which is in the Act 30 Clause 2, which is already stated for the purpose of paragraph 1A, which is the voluntary resignation, which is an act by an insured person to terminate his contract of service, while Mongolian did not have that kind of voluntary resignation. That's all from me.
Right. Okay, all right. Thank you so much for the clear explanation and precise explanation from both of our interview for today. So I guess that we understand the difference between the EIS and Malaysia, and also we understand now what's the importance of having insurance as a worker in Malaysia and also in Mongolia. So both of this country really protect the rights of the worker. So I guess that's all from us. Thank you so much. All right. Okay, done. Settle.
Thank you. Berapa minit?
Oh.